Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today's video I am so excited to do. I've been looking forward to doing this video since January of 2020. I'm going to be ranking all of the eyeshadow palettes that I tried in 2020. So I have about 80 palettes here that I'm going to be ranking, so we have a lot to get through. Let's go ahead and get started. So I actually did this video in January of 2020 and I was ranking all of the palettes that I tried in 2019. And that video was really special to me because it was the first video that ever hit over 100,000 views on my channel. I've been doing YouTube for 5 years. I've never had a viral video. I've never had a video hit 100,000 views, and that one did, and it hit it pretty quickly. And once that happened, I got really excited to make this next wrap-up ranking video at the beginning of 2021. Happy New Year. Thank you for all the love on that video. I did a ranking video about halfway through the year. It was posted in August of all of the eyeshadow palettes. So some of these I am going to try to get through pretty quickly. I did also just recently post a full Colourpop ranking video with all of their collections that they released in 2020. So I'll try to move through the Colourpop ones pretty quickly. Another thing that I do want to say, I have about 80 palettes here, but I'm going to be ranking from 55 to number 1. Some of these I grouped together and they're grouped together by brand, but maybe if the palettes came out in a collection or I just feel like I could rank them together just to try to move through this one pretty quickly. Just real quick, I wanted to say I did film some of this look for my Instagram, which is March Beauty Word. I did swap out my lipstick because I was trying some of the new Charlotte Tilbury hyaluronic lipsticks and I didn't really love them. My lips look a little bit crazy, that is why, but that's not why we're here. We're here to talk about some palettes. So jumping into it, at number 55, this is from Colourpop. Again, I have that full ranking video if you want to see a little bit more in depth on these palettes, but this is their Sailor Moon collaboration. Some of the Colourpop palettes, especially their collabs, like their Disney collabs, I don't feel like the quality is as high quality as some of the Colourpop palettes are, which are amazing. I feel that way with this one. It's a little bit more lackluster, but also this color scheme just confuses me a lot. I don't really know what to do with this palette. I don't really reach for it. At number 54, I have two palettes here from Fenty Beauty. These are the Snap Shadows. I have number 5, which is the Peach palette. Now, these are the first eyeshadow palettes that came out. I am hearing that they have reformulated their eyeshadow palettes, so just want to let you know, these are the first ones. I bought them right when they released. I also have number 6, which is Smoky. I just didn't feel like the quality of these palettes was very nice. The mattes were very patchy. They were hard to blend. The shimmers just didn't do much of anything for me. I was really underwhelmed by this particular formula of the Fenty shadows. At 53, another collaboration with Colourpop is their Candy Castle palette. This was in their Candyland collection. Just underwhelmed by the formula in here. These pastel and really light shades are not my personal preference. Of course, I'm going to be ranking by personal preference. A lot of these shades are the mattes with like a lot of glitter pressed into them, and I don't really like those types of shadows. At 52 from Colourpop, we have the Blush Crush palette. I think this one and the Fenty shadows were the first palettes that I purchased in 2020. This one I was really disappointed in because, like I mentioned with the Colourpop, like especially their collaborations, I feel like the formula can be a little bit lackluster, but this one was not. It was available at Ulta. It's just one of their regular 9pan palettes. I really expected it to be the fabulous Colourpop quality, and I was really underwhelmed by the formula. Number 51, these are 3 palettes from Colourpop. These came out in their tie-dye collection. So we have Miss Bliss, and again, these pastel shades are not really my favorite. They're not a personal preference for me. They can be fun every once in a while to play around with, especially like in the spring, but you know, just not a personal favorite. This was in a trance. I really thought I was going to love, and it just didn't really happen. My favorite from the 3 is the Aura and Out palette. Unfortunately, we've had a little bit of an accident that just happened. I dropped the palette, all but 2 shades fell out. So there's that. They're sitting right next to me. None of them are actually harmed, but it's going to take me a hot second to put them all back in. But I really did like the Aura and Out of these 3, but definitely not my favorite collection from Colourpop. At number 50, this is a quad from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Super Blue quad. Now, blue is not a favorite of mine. The Charlotte Tilbury quads are pretty expensive, but you're going to see these kind of scattered throughout this video. The Super Blue is just a least favorite of mine. I don't go for the blues very often. They're all shimmer shades in here, and I prefer mattes, so that's why it's coming in towards the bottom. At number 49, this is from Catrice Cosmetics. This is their Self-Made Bay palette. Kind of gives me some modern Renaissance Kind of gives me some modern Renaissance vibes. Just not a favorite formula of mine. I didn't mind it, but just one that you kind of have to work a little bit harder for. At number 48, I think this is going to be an unpopular opinion and some people might be surprised, but I actually put in the Natasha Denona Mini Retro. Now you're going to see multiple mini palettes from Natasha Denona, and what I choose as my top one out of the three also might surprise you. Stay tuned. I know a lot of people really liked the mini retro palette. It just wasn't a favorite of mine. I think in here the two mattes are pretty light. They're not like the pastel type of shades, but kind of like leaning in that category, and I've realized that's just not a favorite. These two shimmers on the end are really pretty, but again, something about the color scheme, I thought I was going to be all for it, and it's really my mini palette that I reach for the least. Coming in at 47, I have two different palettes here from Pure Cosmetics. One is their Trolls World Tour Rock palette. This one, I didn't mind it. Definitely not the shades that I'm reaching in for the most. They came out with a lot of these little palettes. I probably should have tried like the purple or the neutral or something that's a little bit more me, but I just thought it was kind of a fun color scheme, and I thought it was all right. And then more recently, they came out with their Barbie collection, and this is the palette that they came out with. I've only tried this a couple times, so there are going to be a few palettes that are really newer to me. So I'll make sure to point those out just so you know, because I feel like those like kind of need like a little asterisk next to them. But I really tried to fit in like all of the palettes that I could. I was trying palettes up until the last day of the year, really wanting to put everything into this video that I possibly could. So again, it's just makeup, it's just ranking makeup, it's just supposed to be a fun and good time, it's not too serious. This was their Barbie palette. I like it more than the Trolls, I would say, just because the color scheme I'm probably going to go into a little bit more, but not something that I see being an absolute favorite. I have a couple more collaborations from Colourpop. So at 46, this is their Mulan palette. It's actually a collab palette that released towards the beginning of 2020, I believe. I think I'm saying that correctly. And I was a little bit surprised that the quality in here was better than some of the other collaborations that I had expected. There's a lot of pressed glitters in here, and the color scheme being very red and a little bit darker. Not something that I go for all that often, but it's a pretty palette. And then at 45, from their Hocus Pocus collection, this is the Gather Round Sisters palette. Again, I feel like this formula is more similar to the Mulan. Still not quite like the top Colourpop formula that I come to expect, but it is pretty. I like some of these colors in here, some of the purples, some of the greens. It's a cute one. At number 44, I have two palettes here from Ofra Cosmetics. These are their Glitch palettes. So this first one here is just the regular Glitch palette. These are 9-pan palettes, and they are all shimmer shades. Try to say that quickly. They are all shimmer shades, and I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I just don't reach for these a lot, because I also prefer mattes. I love an all matte palette. I like all matte looks, and you definitely can do all shimmer looks. This one here is the Glitch 2000. Again, it's just my personal preference, and that's obviously how I'm ranking this video. So this is the Glitch 2000s. Again, you have more another 9-pan all shimmer palette. At number 43, I have this one from Charlotte Tilbury. This is her Instant Eyes Pillowtalk palette. Now, I think the quality in here is nice. It's nothing that absolutely blows me away. It's not like a top formula of mine. I think it's really good though. The mattes are easy to blend. The shimmers are pretty, not necessarily anything that's like super wow and over the top, but I also don't feel like that would explain Charlotte Tilbury as a brand. It's very like natural and effortless. I feel like that's what you get from this palette, though it is pretty pricey. This is $75. 42 from Colourpop, I have their Garden Variety palette. A lot of these kind of lighter tones in here, not something that I reach for all that often. And kind of along those same lines, at 41, I have their Wild Nothing palette. I ranked these side by side in my Colourpop ranking video also, because to me they kind of are similar to one another. They're good palettes. I don't mind the formula in these. Again, not like the top-notch formula, but color scheme not an absolute favorite. At number 40, this is one of the newer palettes to Colourpop. This is their Big Poppy palette. This one I kind of thought to rank a little bit higher, but it's really new to me, and there's just some other palettes that I've had for a little bit longer, or I just have this like feeling that we're really going to get on. Again, this is a 9-pan all matte palette. I really like those, don't get me wrong, and the oranges are really pretty. There's just some other color schemes that I think that I'm going to go for a little bit more. And at 39, this is the eyeshadow palette from BK Beauty, the True Beauty palette. Now this is a really new palette. I've only used this one 2 times, I think it is 2 or 3 times. So again, it's kind of harder for me to rank some of these really new ones a lot higher. But this is the brand run by Lisa J Makeup. I was really excited to see them expand into eyeshadow palettes from their brushes. And this is a really pretty palette. It's obviously very neutral. I like the pop of purple in here. The colors are very soft. They're very easy to work with, and nothing is like, it kind of reminds me a little bit of what I was saying about Charlotte Tilbury. I don't think the formula is really all that similar, but just kind of that easy, effortless, kind of like natural type of look. That's what you're going to get with this palette. At 38, I have a collaboration palette with Sigma Beauty. This was in collab with Stephanie Lang. This is the Essentials palette. I actually have eye and cheek products in here. I don't always rank these multi-use palettes in my palette ranking video, and there's some other ones that I decided to leave out. I decided to include this one though, because I actually really use these face shades for eyeshadow. shadows. For me, like, this bronzer doesn't look the best on me as a bronzer, but I can use it in my crease. I also think the highlight shade in here, it looks pretty as a highlight, but there's no you know, you have this white one, but I actually like to use the star highlight as an inner corner and brow bone highlight. I do think that it's a good palette. Sigma definitely released some excellent eyeshadow palettes. You're going to see a lot more coming up, especially towards the end of the video. So this one I feel almost in a way kind of got overshadowed just because their other palettes really became favorites of mine, but this was a good one. At number 37, this is the Fade into Hue palette from Colourpop. So again, a newer palette. It's a newer release from Colourpop. I've only tried it a couple of times, but this is a colorful palette that I kind of thought of ranking a little bit lower, but I actually really like the way that this is set up. I love this purple row. I think that's beautiful, but I also like that each shade in the rows, they're different. There's a different finish on them, but they're also just even though they're the same color, it's like a different color story. I just feel like there's a lot that you can do with this, and it's kind of, I feel like this could be my kind of go-to if I'm in the mood for something colorful. I could just reach into the Fade into Hue. At number 36, I have this one from Urban Decay. This is the Naked Ultraviolet palette. I know this is a palette that not a lot of people loved. I did like it, but I also really like purples, and I also really like neutrals. So this one I thought was a lot of fun. Now, especially comparing this to my other Urban Decay palettes, I wouldn't rank it at the top. That would be like the Urban Decay Naked Reloaded. I also do really like the Naked Honey, the Naked Cherry. Then I would probably place this one if we're talking about the Naked palettes, but I still thought it was a fun one. At number 35, this one from Nabla is the Secret palette. I've only tried this one a couple times, so again, just want to mention those palettes that are a little bit newer to me, but wanted to include as many as I could. This is a nice one though. I have another Nabla palette that will be coming up that the color scheme speaks to me a little bit more, but I thought the quality is good. This was the first Nabla palette that I tried, and I liked it. At number 34, I've seen this one be spoken of really highly about, so it's kind of coming in the middle here for me, so I'll be curious what people say. But I've been watching so many of these ranking palette videos. I had so much fun. I was actually watching Heather Austin's while I was getting ready this morning, and I just love to see them. They're just, I think that they're a lot of fun. Obviously, I've been watching Best of Beauty, but a lot of people are saying really good things about the Juvia's Place Wahala palette. Now, it's a bigger palette. I tend to go for something a little bit more smaller, and I also am more into neutrals than I am colorfuls. There's some pressed glitters in here. It's just not one that I'm going to be reaching into all that often, but the looks that I did use with this one, especially like these, you know, kind of purple and mauve tones, I did like. At number 33 from Pat McGrath, this is the Rose Decadence palette. This is a 6-pan palette. Now, I will have another Pat McGrath palette coming up. I feel like with this one, it's a nice palette. It's good quality. I just don't reach for it all that often or feel like super inspired by it. It is mostly shimmers in here, which that could come into play because I am more into mattes. I mean, everything is nice in this one. Like, I don't really have anything bad to say about it, but especially as we're kind of getting towards the middle of the pack tier, like, these are the palettes that I'm like, they're not bad. They're not my favorite. They're good. At number 32, I have this one from e.l.f. Cosmetics. This is their Retro Paradise palette. It's an 18-pan palette. This is one that I really thought of ranking higher because I think that it's really good. I feel like this was a very underrated palette this year because I feel like the mini palettes from e.l.f. Cosmetics really stole the show from this one, but it's such a good one. The reason that I didn't rank it higher is because of color scheme. Some of these lighter tones in here and then some more of these colorful shadows that I'm kind of like not sure how much, you know, especially based on all of the other palettes that I have, how much I would choose this one over them, but it's still really good quality. At 31, I have from Marc Jacobs. This is their Cherrific eyeshadow palette that released for holiday 2020. This is such a good palette. It was more expensive. It was $49.50 for this guy, but I really like all of the shades in here. These are my type of tones, and every look that I've done with this palette, I have really come to enjoy, so I like this one a lot. At number 30, this is one of my newest eyeshadow palettes. I used this in my Christmas Get Ready With Me that went up on Christmas Day 2020. I was gonna say of this year, that technically that would be a lie. From BH Cosmetics, this is the Chillin' in Chicago palette. So again, I've only used this one time, but I have a really good feeling about this one. The mattes were super easy to use. The shimmers were so beautiful. I was surprised in that video how much I enjoyed this. I've been hearing BH get talked about so much recently in a positive light. They're Sweet Shop palettes. Everyone keeps mentioning them, and I'm kind of thinking of buying one. I mean, it's ice cream related, so like, I feel like I should. At 29, I have two quads here from Charlotte Tilbury. So we're not quite through all of my quads yet, but these kind of fell in the middle of the pack for me. So this one here, we have the Mesmerizing Maroon. These are really nice, just really simple, kind of everyday, natural glam looks from Charlotte Tilbury. And then we have the Copper Charge. I like both of these. They're especially for the price. They're $53 for these little ones. I'm not like absolutely blown away, but I like them. At $28, again, these are both a little bit newer to my collection, but I've been getting on with them. These are from Huda Beauty. I have the Khaki Haze and then also the Gold Obsessions. So the Khaki Haze, I really like the color scheme in here. It's the main reason that I bought it. I think that it's, so far from the looks that I've done, I have liked it. I don't know if it'll turn out to be an absolute favorite, but I especially really like that color scheme. And I just purchased the Gold Obsessions from Cult Beauty, but I've been really liking this one too. I've been hearing this one not getting as many positive reviews, but the colors in here, some of these toppers are just so beautiful. So far, I've been really liking them. At number 27, the other palette that I have from Nabla Cosmetics is their Side by Side Nude Palette. This one, another newer one to me, but wow, is it beautiful. I do like the formula of the Nabla palettes. Nabla has really been impressing me. I've been trying more of their products recently, but this palette is just like a me type of color scheme. I really appreciate it, so I'm excited to do some more looks with this one. At 26, I actually have 4 palettes here from Ofra Cosmetics. All of these are their signature palettes, which I really do like their signature palettes. You're actually going to see more coming up, so I was just kind of trying to base these off of, again, my color preferences. Have the Sweet Dreams. I really like that these palettes come with a highlight that you can also use on your eyes. Sweet Dreams has Pillow Talk, which is a favorite of mine. Here is the Beachside palette. I really liked this palette. I considered putting it in with the other palettes that you're going to see coming up because it's kind of like a minier version of the Fade into Hue. And then you also have the Star Island highlight in here, which is another favorite of mine, but it's just like that fun mini colorful palette. And kind of along those same lines, this was the collaboration with my friend Leora. She was a part of their Project Influencer for 2020, which was so exciting to see. And this one kind of reminds me a little bit of the Beachside, but you have the green in here, which I actually prefer green over blue, but I thought that was such a fun one too. And then finally, the last one that I have is their Getaway palette, so just a nice neutral palette with this one also. At 25, I have these palettes here from Colourpop. These were in their holiday collection. So we have the Ménage à Moi, which is a beautiful mauve toned palette, and then also the Boudoir Noir. I really like the color scheme in here too. Some of these greens and golds, a little bit grungy, really beautiful formula on these. These are newer because they just released for holiday, but I've been really enjoying them. At 24, these are the very last palettes that I tried of 2020. These are from Kaleidos makeup. So I posted a video at the end of the year trying Kaleidos makeup for the first time, and I used their Futurism Sci-Fi green palette in there, and I was so very impressed. Matte's easy to use, but the shimmers are like on another level. This one I will have a look going up on my Instagram. This is the Astro Pink, but this was one I shared a TikTok wearing this palette on my eyes, and so many people asked me what the palette was because this shade in the middle, that shimmery lavender, their shimmers look like wet goodness on your eyes. I'm really excited that I was able to fit these in. At number 23, I have this one from Natasha Denona. This is the Biba palette. This was a purchase I was so excited to make in 2020 because it was not a new palette. It was an older release. It was one that I constantly kept thinking about, and I finally got it. It's a beautiful palette. The formula is so stunning on it. It's a little bit newer to me, so I haven't tried it the most amount of times, but honestly, I'm pumped. I love the Natasha formula. I'm so happy I have the Biba. At 22, I have 2 Colourpop palettes that I decided to put together. One is a really newer palette. This is their latest release. This is their final release that they did in 2020, is the Wine and Only palette. I've been really impressed by this one. I wasn't sure I would love some of these darker, kind of like cranberry tones, but it's actually really pretty, and I can see myself like wanting to use all of the shades in here. And I decided to put it with the Lilac You a lot, mostly because I'm a bonehead, and I accidentally, I was gonna say shelved this one, which I feel like sounds bad, but you know, I try to have somewhat of organization because of all of the makeup that I try and review and put in videos and try for Instagram and try for looks, and I mixed this one up with the It's My Pleasure because they're both a purple palette, and I accidentally put this one already onto my like has been reviewed shelf, so I actually haven't been able to try this one the most, even though I've had it for a good amount of time. This was a collaboration that came out with my friend Makeup Just for Fun, or Amanda. She put together a favorites bundle, and I didn't have this palette yet, and I think that I'm really gonna like it because it's mostly this purple palette. I just didn't feel like I could rank it any higher because I did the bonehead move and accidentally put it in my reviewed pile. I hate myself for doing that. Both of these I really have been liking. At number 21, I have from Sigma Beauty the Warm Neutrals palette. This is the latest eyeshadow palette release from Sigma Beauty. This is an extension of the Warm Neutrals Volume 2 that came out several years ago, and that was the first palette I tried from Sigma Beauty that I was like, wait, this is actually fantastic. So it was really fun to see them kind of expand that palette. They added a few extra shades and put it in to their regular style 14 pan palettes that they've been coming out with the double-ended brush. Getting into the top 20, I am almost without a voice. Okay, so we have the Lil Ray of Sunshine from Colourpop. This is another one of their 9-pan all matte palettes. Really like this one, really like this color scheme in here too, and I love the sunflowers on it. At 19, I have Expensive Girlfriends. This is from Pat McGrath. This is the Divine Rose palette. This is a really beautiful palette. Second matte shade in here I think is so stunning. These special shades at the end, like I finally get when people say Pat McGrath has these really special shadows. I was able to notice that, especially with this palette. It's a fun one. At number 18, I don't know if this might surprise some people, but this is from Natasha Denona. This is the Glam palette. Now everything, especially in my top like 20, 23, I would say, I really like all of these palettes, but I have 3 of these from Natasha Denona in this size, and this is how I would rank them. This would come in at number 3. Still really like it. I love the cool tones in here. I like that you have a mixture of like some pinky shades, just some neutral browns, some golds. I really do like this one, but you know, trying to get into the nitty-gritties once we get into the top 20. At number 17, I have 2 more of the Ofra signature palettes. One is complete with part of an eyelash that I clipped on there. All right, so we have, this is part of their holiday release, I believe, the Luxe palette. This is so beautiful though. I love just like good like brown smoky eye, and this one will deliver. You have the Rodeo Drive highlight in here. It's a really nice palette. And then this one is probably my favorite signature palette from Ofra. It's the Galaxy palette. I love purples. This palette is so beautiful. I really enjoyed the quality on these. The Galaxy is a fun one. At number 16, I have 3 palettes here from Juvia's Place. Again, just kind of putting them all together to make it easier on me. I would definitely say the one in the 3rd place from these would be the Nudes. I like it, and I like a good neutral palette. This one is almost like a little bit too, you know, I don't want to say boring, but like just a little bit too like basic for me. But these next ones, I don't even know if I could. We have the violets. Love the purples, so easy to work with. I guess I would maybe put this at number 2 because I actually really do like the taupes. I really like the color scheme in here. They're so easy to work with. The mattes are super soft, and the shimmers are really like just so easy to work with. I was very impressed. I really like these little mini ones from Juvia's Place. I took a little break, let my camera battery charge, because fun fact, this is actually the 2nd time I'm filming this video. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just keep going. Okay, top 15. Top 15. At number 15 from Colourpop, this is the Child palette, the Mandalorian palette. This palette is so cute. I was not expecting this quality to be high because it was a collaboration. I just was thinking probably not going to be a lot to write home about. It's actually so stunning, and I love the greens in here. At number 14, I have another mini palette from Natasha Denona. It is the Mini Glam palette. All right, so this is like your little mini version of the Glam palette. I really like the mini palettes. I like this little 5-pan one. There's actually another mini palette that is coming in even higher than this one. Stay tuned, we're getting there. At 13, I actually have 3 palettes here from Colourpop. This was the Dark Blooms collection. Definitely my favorite out of here is the Baroque palette. And now when I open it, I know that it might seem like it's a blue palette, and I've been saying that I don't like blues, but it's this very like cool toned grayish silver type of blue, and that I think is just so fun and super unique. Reminds me a little bit of the Blow and Smoke palette, and I also really like that one from Colourpop. There's also the Grandeur palette, which is really beautiful. There is a pressed glitter in here, but it's actually a really pretty glitter. And then there is also the Ornate palette. So again, this was the Dark Blooms collection. I thought I could pair all 3 of these together. At number 12, I have this palette from Lawless Beauty. This is such a pretty palette. This is the Baby One palette. I really like the Lawless Beauty eyeshadow formula. It's one of those really blendable, buildable formulas, not too pigmented, not too hard to work with. I really like the mini palettes also. And this one, I mean, color scheme, totally me. But this is one that actually the shadows kind of surprised me a little bit because I felt like looking in the pan, I knew what they were going to be, and they were actually even better, especially the shimmers, super beautiful. But I love that there's a lot of mattes in here because I'm more of a matte girl. This was definitely a standout palette for me. At number 11, I have from Raw Beauty Kristi, her collaboration with Pure Cosmetics. This is her double-sided palette where we have a neutral side and then also a colorful side. This was such a well put together palette. I love the double-sided. I love that it's still nice and small yet gives you so many options. Kristi did amazing on this. And speaking of Kristi, at number 10, I have her collaboration with Colourpop, the At Forest Sight palette. I mean, what a year Kristi had. 2 collaborations, hitting 1 million on YouTube, having her son, oh my goodness. But her Colourpop collection, this came in really, really high in my Colourpop ranking video. It's a beautiful palette. Once again, love that it's mostly mattes. It was the same way with the Pure palette, and that's my personal preference. At number 9 is my third and final mini palette from Natasha Denona. This is the Mini Gold palette. I did not think I was going to like this palette. I did not even buy this palette. No, I did not steal it. No, I did not steal it. I had a subscriber send it to me and she said, I just think that you were really gonna like this palette. And I'm like, I don't know, man. What throws me off, I think, is that it's called the Mini Gold. There's really only one gold shade in here. To me, I call this one the Mini Green. Like on my notepad, it says Mini Green because it has the 2 green shades in here. I don't wear golds all that often on my eyes, so that's why I was thinking I wouldn't like this one. It's so beautiful. I like it so much. At number 8, I have my highest ranking collaboration palette for this video, and that is with Mel Thompson and Sydney Grace. Oh my gosh, Mel did such a good job on the Tiny Marvels palette. It is beautiful. I feel like mine is really dirty, and not a lot of my palettes are dirty because if you didn't know, I have a lot of eyeshadow palettes and I'm also light-handed. But this one is beautiful. The shades that she chose, the quality, Sydney Grace quality is so, so good. I feel like Sydney Grace had an amazing year also, and so proud of Mel. This was such a good palette. At number 7 from Natasha Denona, this is the Bronze palette. So this is coming in at number 2 out of the 3 palettes that I have like this for Natasha Denona. I know not a lot of people had really high praise for this palette. A lot of people said it was boring or it was the same thing. It was really repetitive. I love it. I love it. Even though there's actually a lot of mattes in here, I didn't know if I would like this one as much because, like I said, I am more of a matte girl. But the shimmers in here, there are some that are truly just special. I have such a big dip on the shade Bliss and also Silk. I mean, the color scheme in here, I'm such a fan of this one. At number 6, this is my final Charlotte Tilbury quad, and of course, it's the Green Lights. I have talked so highly about this palette. This is the one that made me start liking green shadows. So easy to use, and actually all of these are shimmers too, but they're so easy to use. You can use them alone, you can use them all together, you can mix them all on your eyes. It's such a beautiful little quad. I know that it is more expensive, but to me, this is actually more unique to my collection because I don't have a lot of greens and I love it. Oh my gosh, we have made it to the top 5, top 5, top 5. In at number 5, I actually have a lot of these palettes. I grabbed out 3 for the purposes of this video, but it is from e.l.f. Cosmetics, their bite-sized palettes. These are fabulous. These are only $3 each. I have, I think, every single bite-sized palette that came out now. This one here is the Pumpkin Pie. We have the Cream and Sugar, and the newest one to me is their Hot Jalapeno, which is the green. These are fantastic quality for these 4-pan palettes. The mattes are great, the shimmers are great. Again, they're $3, like you just can't go wrong. At number 4, I was not lying when I said that Sigma eyeshadow palettes impressed me so much. At number 4, we have the Untamed. This palette did something to me. This palette just like moved me. It's beautiful. It's more of this grungy tone. It came out right around fall time and I was like, perfect timing. The green, the kind of this like mustard type of color, the shimmers. This palette is so much fun. Shimmers too, to layer them. Like I don't know what to say, man. Sigma impresses me so much because that's number 4, and at number 3 is the Sigma Cor de Rosa. If you haven't tried Sigma palettes yet, please do. I have my affiliate code with them. You can get some money off. It's just Samantha. Their palettes impress me so much. Here we have the Cor de Rosa. This is just one, I'm gonna reach for this color scheme just a little bit over the Untamed, but I had to put them back to back because I was like, they're just both fantastic. I mentioned my love for the Cor de Rosa palette in my one and done eyeshadow palette video that I did recently. It's just fabulous. Depending on what your personal preference is with palettes, between this, the Untamed, the Warm Neutrals, they have their Enchanted palette that they came out with last year. I mean, you should really just try one. At number 2, this is so exciting. At number 2, from Colourpop, we have the That's Taupe palette. I love this palette, and it finally came back in stock. So I mentioned this, you might guess, pretty highly in my Colourpop ranking video, and it was out of stock, and I was like, no, it just came back in stock, but I know that they were having a sale, and I know a lot of you told me that you were buying it, so I hope that it is still back. But it is beautiful. It reminds me a little bit of my Going Coconuts palette from Colourpop, which I love, but this is the one that I was saying, like, compared to my Natasha Denona Glam, I honestly, like, it's really, really good, and it's like $12 or $15 compared to the $65. You do get less shades. I love the Natasha formula, but this one, it's a good one. But speaking of Natasha, at number 1, did you guess? Did you already know by the time we did this video? It's the Love palette. The Love has made it to my number 1. I love this palette. I use this palette so much. This is one of those that on the days where I'm not filming, I'm not trying to play with new makeup for an Instagram tutorial, I go into this palette so much. And what's fun to me is the color scheme in here. It isn't the typical like brown neutral that I would normally go for. The purples and the pinks, this palette to me is just so much fun. The shimmers, the golds, even just the other day, I just wore the red shade, Heart, just all over, and I blended it out a little bit with First. That's it. Wasn't doing anything, wasn't filming anything, was gonna make like a couple of TikToks and like have it be a day. I was like, I'm just gonna put the red all over my eyes. I love this palette. This is supposed to be limited edition. It came out around Valentine's Day in 2020. It said it was limited edition. Last time I checked, it was still in stock. I don't know when it's gonna go out of stock. I hope that it doesn't, because it is my favorite. This was my first midi palette from Natasha Denona that I purchased, and this is what made me go on to purchase the Bronze and also the Glam. My favorite, my top palette of 2020, the Natasha Denona Love palette. Natasha, you gonna put me on your PR list this year, girlfriend? Or what? Because I love your palettes, and that was so much fun to rank all of my palettes. We counted down from 55 to number 1, but we really had about 80 palettes in this video. I'm very tired. My voice is almost gone. Hands are shaking a little bit because I'm really hungry, but I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your comments down below. Was there any surprises? Was there any shocking moments to you? I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for your support on this video that I did in January 2020. It meant a lot to me to see that, and I hope that you enjoyed this one just as much as you did last year. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing 2021. If you enjoyed this, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. I hope you also consider subscribing before you go, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.